Randomized Gaming presents.
Hello, and once again, my name is Random Gamer Riven. Now, today we've actually got a very special video for you, as this is actually a video review. Well, to be specific, it is a video review of our most recent blog review, Rolo to the Rescue. And the reason we decided to do this is we wanted to see just how well a video review would do on YouTube for us. So, we're not going to move away from written reviews as such, but we want to see if doing supporting video reviews will actually complement our existing content reviews. The reason being, whenever we do reviews, we normally record a fair amount of video content on each game we actually review. In fact, we normally do about an hour or two of gameplay footage, and usually I use that primarily for screenshots, but we could also use it for videos. In fact, a lot of the footage you'll see in this video was actually used in our gameplay video, and that's basically where we got all the source footage from. But we want to see how well a video review does. So if you like this video review and if you want to see us do more video reviews, please like the video and comment below. If you don't want us to do video reviews, then also just comment below just saying we prefer just to review the written review. I think each review format might have its advantages and disadvantages. I personally prefer written, but I think a video format might appeal to a lot of the younger generation and those on the go, etc. So we want to give this a try. I've set a few benchmarks for view statistics, so if it doesn't get a certain amount of views within a set period, we probably won't do too many more. But we've been thinking about it for a while, and as we've got quite a lot of footage for a couple of our reviews, we're going to do a few video reviews and just see how they go. So basically, in short, if you wanted to do more of this, then like the video and also get watching, basically. But please don't spam watch just because one person wants to do it. We can check the statistics, we can see where all the various views are coming from, so we do know if people are spamming videos, etc. Now, the only slight difficulty we've had to try and work around is that usually when you're in the written reviews, we normally have comments under a lot of the pictures, and usually those comments are either designed to be slightly funny or designed to mention something that perhaps we didn't cover necessarily in the main bulk of the review. So I'm going to have to try and work out the best way of approach both elements. I hope you enjoy this review, and please let us know what you think of the review as a whole. You'll notice the wording by and large is me simply reading the written review, but I've made a few changes in places where it flows better if I voice it over, because some parts of the review are slightly better read than actually spoken, so I've slightly tweaked when necessary. So I hope you enjoy our video review of Rolo to the Rescue. Rolo to the Rescue was released on the Sega Mega Drive, better known as the Sega Genesis, to our US customers, and it has only ever been released on this format. It has never been released on any other format as far as we're aware. It was published by Electronic Arts, and its developer was Vectordean, although for some reason I keep calling them Vectordean. It's Dean for some reason. And they were a British studio that was most famous for the James Pond series of games. Indeed, Rolo to the Rescue is technically part of that series. Genre, primarily it is a platform game. So we here at Randomized Gaming reviewed Rolo to the Rescue on both a European Sega Mega Drive, and we also played it on an NTSC Sega Mega Drive for comparisons. Now, the game is Region 3, but I should point out at 60Hz the game appears to be running far too fast, as it was done by a British studio, and they appear to have set the game speed for the 50Hz version, so while it's still playable at 60Hz, the controls get a bit more twitchy. I should point out it has the Japanese title, which gets translated to roughly Yo-Yo Dedentsu, or Legend of the Elephant, or something along those lines. So finally, after numerous delays, I sat down for a whole day to play and video Rolo to the Rescue. With only 4 main worlds in the game and 6 fairly small levels, it wasn't going to take more than a few hours to finish, or so I thought. Knowing that you could only see the true ending if the player freed all of Rolo's friends, I foolishly set about trying to finish every level in the game, thinking this wasn't going to take a huge amount of time. The first world took about an hour to clear all the stages, and things were looking good for this to be finished after lunch. Then, after I got about halfway through the second world, I hit a stage that redefines the word frustration. An hour and 200 lives later, I finally cleared it. By about this point, I wanted to tear out my hair, however, and my sanity had long since left me, and I was turning the air blue with the amount of profanities I was saying whenever I died in this game. At this point, I realised it was going to be a very long day, and little did I know that many of the levels were just going to get even harder. I partly wondered if I had some twisted homebrewed version of the game with levels designed by fans of the series. After all, you only have to look at games like Super Mario Maker to see how fans like to design insanely hard levels that suck the fun out of the franchise. So get ready to see the continue screen quite a lot, because you will be dying, and I mean dying. In fact, I end up having to exploit a glitch in the end in order to get myself infinite lives, because otherwise there was no way I was even remotely getting anywhere near to the end of this game. Sadly, however, my dreams of some of this being some twisted homebrew version of the game was soon dashed when I discovered this was an official level of the game, and it was clear from this point onwards that many of the extra stages in Rolo to the Rescue had been designed by either a sadist or someone married to a dominatrix. Things then just went from bad to worse as the extra stages got harder and harder. One stage required you to perfectly time your jumps to dodge about 10 flying bear traps that jumped straight at you. Another saw you being chased by about 20 ghosts. One mistimed jumped and it was goodbye Rolo. While the progress required stages maintain a stable difficulty, if you don't venture out into the extra stages, you will only ever see the bad ending. Something clearly Vectordean the developers realised, and to squeeze out as much lastability as possible, they just decided to make the game as hard as they could. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself at this point, so why don't we start at the beginning? Rolo to the Rescue is a game developed by a British studio called Vectordean, who were best known for the James Pond series of video games. Rolo to the Rescue even features a cameo from James Pond himself in Splash Gordon attire on one of the later stages, but this small cameo is the only real link between the two games. In fact, his brief cameo is clearly set up as a link to a Splash Gordon as it's set on the moon, where the majority of Splash Gordon, the third James Pond game, was set. From the opening sequences alone, you can see the quality of the presentation and the in-game graphics. Rolo is clearly aimed at young children, and the bright, bold, colourful graphics clearly show this, even if the game's difficulty doesn't. All the animal characters have a very cute look with large eyes, huge smiles and colourful faces. Even the enemies on the whole fall into this same design look, bar the main villain, McSmiley the Ringmaster, who has that classic Hanna-Barbera Dick Dastardly look with the long moustache and top hat. The backgrounds are also very well drawn in the game and feature a number of layers of parallax scrolling. As nice as they look, they are a little overused at times, and a variant designed for the forest and desert wouldn't have gone amiss. The later city world, however, doesn't suffer from this problem as much due to it having quite a large number of background themes, including a haunted house, some circus stages, and city at night themed stages amongst others. You have to give credit to the two artists who did the graphics. They did a superb job with the art direction of the game, as Rolo's sprite artwork holds up well even today and has a very British look with how he is drawn. The character animation is also very fluid, and just watching Rolo's run animation shows the care the developers took when drawing him. The game even has time to have a sense of humour, with Rolo adopting different hats to wear in the various worlds, donning a Stetson in the Wild West stages and a Safari Explorer hat in the desert ones. Indeed, it's not hard to like Rolo and his friends when you look at them, despite the game's incredibly nauseating difficulty. The gameplay itself is also very simple, with the core of the game being little more than a straight up platformer. The twist here is that for Rolo to finish many of the levels, he must first rescue all his animal friends. To do this, Rolo must find and defeat the Ringmaster McSmiley on each stage. Doing so grants him a key, which then allows him to free his caged up animal buddies. Once you have freed them all, it's on to the stage exit. While early stages are little more than a race to the exit, later stages require you to take control of your animal friends in order to finish the stage. Rolo can keep 3 animal friends with him at any one time, and each animal has a different ability. The bunny rabbit can jump super high, the beavers can swim in water, while the squirrel can climb and the mole can dig underground. All these skills will come into play on many of the later stages, as you are often required to have your friends collect hidden puzzle pieces or access a part of the level Rolo himself cannot. A 5th friend, the baby hedgehog, at first starts life as an enemy of Rolo, but you can choose to reunite the baby hedgehog with its mother on one stage, making all hedgehogs in-game friendly from then on after. Not to be outdone by his friends, Rolo himself can obtain temporary power-ups as well to help him on certain levels. The vacuum cleaner allows Rolo to suck up items, and a glass of lemonade allows him to squirt his enemies with water for a short while. one of the funnier power-ups is the helium tank, which sees Rolo become a giant floating balloon, all of which you will get very familiar with as you try to unlock all the missing puzzle sections of the world map that are needed to progress to the next level. There's a nice mix of platforming action and puzzles to solve in Rolo to the Rescue. While on the whole it isn't a bad mixture, the main challenge for the game comes from the fact that if anything hits Rolo, he dies instantly. Each friend he finds grants him an extra hit, but at the start of any level where Rolo begins alone you have to be very careful. Sprites, however, use the Mega Man gaming lore and kill anything they touch instantly. As with most of the classic platform games, jumping on enemies allows Rolo to defeat them, which is surprisingly realistic for a game in the platform genre, as an elephant landing on just about anything in real life would crush it to death. Here, however, is where the first major problem with Rolo to the Rescue appears, as someone clearly didn't correctly check the collision of Rolo, as he has no hitboxes on his front legs, only his back ones, meaning that if only his front legs touch an enemy or a platform, the enemy will hit you and you will fall straight through the platform. Rolo having no collision on the first half of his sprite is a big problem, which makes jumping on some of the smaller platforms really tricky, as you have to make sure his back legs hit any platform he jumps on. Unless you plan on taking Rolo for a pit diving exercise jumping into bottomless pits. Trust me when I say Rolo to the Rescue is filled to the brim with instant death jumps in the later stages should you fail a jump, and having collision not on the front legs of his body makes many of these jumps absolutely infuriating. In fact, I would have given up pretty shortly into playing the game were it not for the fact I was forced to review this title. This sadly is not the only issue with Rolo's jumping ability, as he suffers from one of the cardinal sins of platform gaming, or slip sliding away as I like to call it. Yes, you've guessed it, Rolo controls start sliding as soon as he finishes a jump, forcing the player to counterbalance as soon as they land. This makes landing on really small platforms a nightmare, as you have no margin for error. The combination of these factors makes precision jumping rather tricky, and that's not all the control issues either. To round off this trio of problems is the delay in the jump, as true to being a huge elephant, Rolo takes a little while to get off the ground, or to be precise, after pressing the jump button he takes a couple of frames of animation to get off the ground, which during the run animation gives you plenty of time to slide off a platform long before Rolo ever takes to the skies, even after you've pressed the jump button. It's so bad in fact that you end up getting used to pressing the jump button long before you reach the end of the platform in order to make sure he jumps at the correct point, otherwise you're just headed towards a spiky death. In fact, at this point I'm reminded of the age-old quote, "In this world nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes need not apply for Rolo, but instead he gets a double helping of certain death from just about every single later stage in the game." As you can imagine, Rolo's jumping ability certainly makes for a unique platforming experience, one that will most likely see you banging your head against a brick wall in frustration. Assuming of course that you haven't already thrown your Rolo to the Rescue cartridge and or Mega Drive at said brick wall at high velocity, and trust me, I did really want to rip out the cartridge and throw it at a wall. There's also the small matter of the camera having a nasty habit of rising up as you jump, so you can't see the platform you're jumping to, forcing you to memorise a distance between your current location and where you want to be, as the parallax scrolling prevents you from using a fixed reference point. Let's not worry about this issue too much, however, as the game was clearly designed for sadists, and most normal gamers at this point will likely be a quivering wreck in the corner screaming, "Please Rolo, no more, no more," making you wonder why the ringmaster is so angry at Rolo. Perhaps it's his nighttime activities with the ring mistress, which most likely involves black leather and whips. Indeed, the roller coaster and minecart sections provide a much welcome break from the standard platforming levels and actually have some reasonably placed difficulty in them. The underlying issue here is that the broken jumping mechanics combined with a deliberate attempt to make some levels incredibly hard cause major difficulty spikes. So much so the term difficulty spike doesn't even describe it. This is more a mountainous spike of death, meaning that only the most skilled and determined players will ever truly finish the game 100%. So if you don't have the patience of a saint, you can forget about finishing this game without cheating. Clearly the difficulty is aimed at bedroom-locked children of the 90s who would have spent weeks on end playing and mastering the same game. Clearly the developers also knew this as well, as the game is packed with extra lives on almost every stage. In many ways the game clearly trolls the player as well, by pushing extra life just out of reach, by implying Rolo is mentally scarred forever if he doesn't save all his friends in the bad ending. In fact, I'm just going to quickly pop up the bad ending here, and as you can see, it basically really does troll the players by implying that he's mentally scarred forever. Smart players will even work out the stages extra lives respawn on each time you load into the level. Indeed, in our case, we found how to grab the 3 lives hidden on stage 3. You have to fall to the left side of the waterfall to find a secret teleport, and then we just repeated the stage over and over again until we had enough lives to hopefully finish the next level. For players that still struggle, there is always the debug menu cheat, but when you have to resort to cheating in a game, something is fundamentally broken at its design core. Partly this is likely down to the size of the game, which with short levels and only 4 main worlds, makes for a game you can finish on paper in a few hours. One video playthrough on the internet sees the whole game finished 100% in less than an hour, but clearly this guy's been practicing for days on end and been using save states to get that perfect playthrough. There's some nice design in this game as well. The art looks great, and the mechanics behind how Rolo's animal friends play is really good fun. It's just that the core part of the game is hugely flawed. One point that is interesting is the rabbit character has a perfect jumping collision with this tree, unlike Rolo, suggesting that both characters may be using the same collision, and it made us wonder if Rolo hadn't been the main player character originally, as the rabbit doesn't suffer from some of the jumping issues Rolo has. At this point it's worth mentioning the music. Even if there isn't a huge amount in game, while the world map and boss battles have their own theme, most of the stages just draw from the same selection of random tunes. They're nice enough to listen to, but the complete lack of different themes for different worlds rapidly causes you to lose interest in it. There's the odd unique fanfare when you first enter some worlds, but that's your lot. Once you've played the game for about an hour, you've heard all the music in game. The songs also tend to repeat on themselves very quickly, and after a while of listening to them you may find yourself reaching for the mute button. I know I certainly did. While the jumping may be flawed, the rest of the movement controls work fine. Rolo can also run using the A button to speed through each level. However, the game was clearly designed to run at 50Hz and not 60Hz, meaning that on an NTSC Mega Drive or Genesis it runs way too fast, something that was never corrected by Vectordean in the Japanese or US versions of the game. While Rolo does have its flaws, there's still a lot to like in the game. The levels are packed full of secrets to find, and the explorative side of the game works very well. It's always great to find a hidden cave full of extra lives or a shortcut to another world in the game. The boss battles are also nicely balanced as you fight the various members of the circus, ranging from the clowns in a giant fire truck, the strongman and his weight, and of course the final battle with the evil ringmaster McSmiley. There's also a lot of charm with Rolo and his friends, and the ability to have Rolo's buddy standing on his back is very funny to watch. The format is all here for a truly great game, but the problems with the core jumping mechanics just bring it all crashing down on its head. So I suppose the question is Rolo the master of pleasure or pain? Rolo to the Rescue would have been a game easy to recommend had the flaws with the jumping controls been ironed out. As it stands, however, there are hundreds of platforms games better than it. The 16-bit era is full of games like Sonic, Rocket Knight Adventures and Rise Star on the Sega Mega Drive, which outclass Rolo in every area. There's just no room for a platform game where the jumping mechanic is this heavily flawed. It's not impossible to finish the game, but it does feel like the developers have tied your legs together, stuck a blindfold on you and suspended you from the ceiling before telling you, okay, now jump to the other side of the room. All in all, it feels like there's a lot of needless effort required on your part in order to finish Rolo to the Rescue, and purely as a way for the developers to extend the length of the game that they didn't need to do. Looking at Rolo to the Rescue, you can't help but feel a bit sorry for the artists who did a great job with the art style itself. It's just a shame the level designer felt the need to make many of the extra levels as obtusely hard as possible to increase the lastability. This, coupled with the bad jumping controls, make for a game that just causes you to want to rip your hair out. I'm amazed the developers weren't violently dispatched by the quality assurance department, as this game would have driven just about anyone insane had to play it for more than a month straight. You do have to question what kind of monster would have to make a game that's this flawed for children. To be fair to the developers, Electronic Arts may have well been the ones to blame for the difficulty. The fact remains the game is insanely hard, and this is coming from someone who's finished all the main Mario games 100%, and even that terrible final level at the end of Super Mario 3D World. Even Sonic Advance 2, which we reviewed previously, is not an easy game to fully clear, but we did so in our last review. Rolo to the Rescue takes the biscuit, however, with levels that require hours and hours of practice before you can clear them. Don't be fooled by the cute graphics, this is a game only platform masters can truly finish. As much as I want to champion British games design, this is not its shining hour, and while far from the worst platforming game ever made, it's not the best either. Vectordean's James Pond series has a lot to blame for this, as Robocod was just about as hard as Rolo in those later stages. It's one of those series that was great as a child, but now that you look back at it, you realise it wasn't very good to begin with. Sadly, Rolo falls into the same category, and he's best left to play with his friends on his own, as after all, no one wants to be Rolo's whipping boy.